The massive Veltar warship hung silently above the small blue planet, like a dark cloud blocking the sun. Inside the ship's command center, Admiral Kexvan stared at the holographic display, showing the world below. His 6 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the primitive settlements scattered across the planet's surface. "Another human colony," his tactical officer Mordek said with disgust. "They call it New Tasmania. Population scan shows approximately 50,000 inhabitants spread across 12 small settlements." Kexvan's clawed fingers drummed against the metal command chair. The Veltar Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past century, each victory adding to their fearsome reputation across the galaxy. Every species they encountered eventually learned to fear the distinctive black ships that brought death from the stars. "What defensive capabilities do they possess?" Kexvan asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Minimal orbital defenses, basic kinetic weapons, primitive energy shields around their larger settlements. Nothing that poses any real threat to our forces." Mordek's voice carried the typical Veltar arrogance that had served them well in previous conquests. The Admiral nodded slowly. This backwater human colony would serve perfectly for their newest experiment. For months, their bioengineers had worked tirelessly to create the ultimate planetary cleansing weapon. The Ravagers were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. "Prepare the biodeployment pods," Kexvan ordered. "It's time to test our new creations." Far below on the planet's surface, Dr. Minho Park sat in his geological research laboratory, completely unaware of the alien presence above his world. The morning sun streamed to the windows of the New Tasmania Research Facility as he reviewed mineral survey data from a northern continent. His coffee had grown cold hours ago, but Minho remained focused on his work. The planet's geological composition fascinated him. New Tasmania possessed unique mineral formations that could revolutionize mining techniques throughout human space. He made notes about rare earth deposits and unusual crystal formations that defy conventional understanding. A sudden tremor shook the building. Minho looked up from his data pad, frowning. Seismic activity was rare on New Tasmania. The planet's geological structure remained remarkably stable, making it ideal for long-term colonization. Another tremor, stronger this time. Coffee cups rattled on shelves throughout the laboratory. Minho moved to the window and looked outside. Other researchers and facility staff were emerging from buildings, looking around at confused expressions. Then the screaming started. In the distance, something impossible moved through the settlement's outer district. Minho pressed his face against the glass, trying to understand what he was seeing. The creature stood as tall as a building, its form constantly shifting and changing like liquid metal given life. Chitinous armor covered its surface, but the armor seemed to flow and adapt as he watched. "Emergency alert." Captain Jean Woo Kim's voice crackled through the facility's communication system. "All civilians report to designated secure areas immediately. We have multiple hostile contacts of unknown origin. This is not a drill." Minho grabbed his emergency kit and research materials. Whatever was happening, his scientific training told him that information would be crucial for survival. He stuffed data pads and sample containers into his bag while chaos erupted outside. Through the facility's security monitors, he watched more creatures descending from the sky in organic-looking pods. Each Ravager emerged differently, their forms adapting to the local environment within seconds of landing. Some grew wings to navigate the settlement's tall buildings. Others developed powerful limbs for tearing through defensive barriers. The creatures moved with terrifying intelligence. They didn't attack randomly like wild animals. Instead, they seemed to study their targets, learning from each encounter. When human defenders fired kinetic weapons, the Ravagers' hide thickened to absorb the impact. Energy weapons caused their surface to become reflective, bouncing the attacks harmlessly away. Communications Officer So-Young Lee's voice joined the emergency broadcast. Unknown alien vessels detected in high orbit. Military personnel report to defensive positions. Civilian evacuation protocols are now in effect. Minho joined the stream of people moving through the facility's corridors toward the reinforced bunkers. The research station had been built with various emergencies in mind, but the architects had never imagined anything like this. Above the planet, Admiral Kexvan watched the initial deployment with satisfaction. The first 12 Ravagers had been released, and they were performing exactly as designed. The biomonitors showed the creatures rapidly adapting to human defensive measures. "Excellent," he murmured. "Begin recording all data for the science division. They'll want complete documentation of how the humans respond to adaptive predation." The Veltar had tested their bioweapons on other species before, but those had been simple exercises. Primitive civilizations with stone tools and basic agriculture offered little challenge for creatures designed to overcome any obstacle. Humans were different. They possessed technology and organizational capabilities that would provide a more interesting test. The Veltar expected the usual pattern: initial resistance, growing panic as casualties mounted, then final collapse as the survivors lost hope. "How long do you estimate before complete pacification?" Mordek asked. Kexvan considered the question. Previous deployments suggest 72 hours maximum. Humans are known for their emotional instability under pressure. Once fear takes hold, they typically abandon coordinated resistance. Neither alien understood the crucial mistake they had just made. They had observed human behavior during peaceful times, but they had never seen what humans became when pushed to their absolute limits. The Ravagers continued their assault, learning and adapting with each encounter. But deep within the settlement's bunkers, something else was beginning to adapt too. Human ingenuity was awakening. The first 24 hours felt like living inside a nightmare that refused to end. Dr. Minho huddled with 30 other survivors in the research facility's underground bunker, watching security monitors that showed scenes of impossible horror outside. The Ravagers moved through New Tasmania settlements like deadly shadows. Their bodies constantly changed shape, adapting to every challenge the human defenders threw at them. When Colonial Marines fired explosive rounds, the creatures grew thicker shells. When they used flame weapons, the monsters developed heat-resistant skin that glowed red-hot but never burned. "They're not just animals," Minho whispered to Captain Jinwoo, who crouched beside him studying the video feeds. "Look at their behavior patterns. They're learning from every encounter." Jinwoo checked his weapon for the 100th time. The plasma rifle felt inadequate against creatures that seemed to laugh at human technology. "Learning what exactly?" "Everything. Watch this." Minho pointed at one monitor showing the third settlement under attack. "See how they approach the defensive walls? Compare that to how they attacked the first settlement 6 hours ago." The difference was terrifying. In the first settlement, the Ravagers had charged directly at the barriers, using brute force to smash through. Now they moved with calculated precision, testing different sections of the walls, and finding weak points that human engineers had never considered. Communications officer So-Young Lee sat at her station, dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep. Her equipment crackled with intercepted alien transmissions that her computer couldn't translate. "They're watching us," she said quietly. "The signals are getting stronger. Whatever those things are, someone's monitoring everything they do." The bunker's main screen flickered, showing footage from Settlement 7. A group of colonists had barricaded themselves inside the community center, but something was wrong with the sounds coming through the speakers. "Help us. Please, someone help us." The voices were human, desperate, and terrified. Jinwoo reached for his communicator, but Minho grabbed his wrist. "Wait, look at the timestamp." The footage was 3 hours old. Settlement 7 had gone silent 2 hours ago. They're mimicking human voices, Minho said, his blood running cold. The creatures learned to copy the sound of their victims. As if summoned by his words, voices began calling from outside the bunker. Familiar voices. Dr. Park's assistant calling for help. The security guard who had died in the first attack, now begging to be let inside. "Jinwoo, Minho, it's me, Daehyun. Open the door. They're right behind me." Captain Jinwoo raised his weapon toward the sealed entrance, his hands shaking slightly. Everyone in the bunker knew that Daehyun Choi was alive, but he was trapped in the mining complex on the other side of the settlement. "That's not him," So-Young whispered, "but it sounded exactly like him." The voices outside grew more desperate, more convincing. Children crying for their parents. Elderly colonists pleading for medicine. Each voice perfectly matched someone the survivors knew, someone who might realistically need help. "How are they doing this?" asked Dr. Eunice Kim, the facility's medical officer. Her hands trembled as she held her scanner, reading elevated stress levels throughout the group. Minho studied the security feeds more carefully. Their neural structure is more complex than we thought. They're not just adapting physically. They're learning psychological warfare. On the monitors, they could see Ravagers positioned outside other bunkers across the settlement, their forms shifting to mimic human shapes in the darkness. The creatures had learned that direct assault wasn't always the most effective approach. Fear and confusion could accomplish what brute force could not. But something else was happening that the creatures hadn't expected. Instead of breaking down under psychological pressure, some humans were beginning to respond differently. Teacher Eunji Kang's voice came through the emergency communication network from Settlement 4. "Don't trust the voices. We figured out they can't get the emotions right. Listen to how they speak. Real people in danger sound different." From a mining complex, Daehyun's actual voice joined the network. "We're using the excavation equipment to create noise barriers. The creatures don't like certain sound frequencies. We can use that." Settlement by settlement, human survivors were sharing information. They weren't just hiding anymore. They were observing, learning, adapting. The aliens made a mistake, Minho said suddenly, his scientific mind beginning to see patterns in the chaos. They gave their weapons the ability to learn, but they didn't consider that we can learn too. Jinwoo looked at the screen, showing Ravagers hunting through the darkened streets. "What do you mean?" "These creatures adapt to overcome obstacles, right? But they have to learn our weaknesses first. Every time they encounter something new, they have to process it, share the information with the others, and develop a response. So there's a delay. A few seconds where they're vulnerable while they're learning, and if we can feed them false information." So Young looked up from her communication station. "The other settlements are reporting similar observations. The creatures seem confused when we do something unexpected." Outside the bunker, the false voices grew more frantic, more desperate. But now they sounded wrong somehow. Too perfect, too practiced. The Ravagers were learning to mimic human speech, but they couldn't quite grasp human emotion. "They're trying to think like us," Minho realized. "But they don't understand how humans actually think under stress." That was when the survivors made their first crucial discovery. The same adaptability that made the Ravagers so dangerous could also become their weakness. The creatures expected humans to respond with panic and desperation. They had studied human behavior in peaceful situations and assumed terror would make humans predictable. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Human ingenuity wasn't just awakening. It was getting angry. On the third day, everything changed. Dr. Minho made a discovery that would shift the entire battle when Jinwoo's team managed to capture a Ravager alive using modified mining equipment from Daehyun's crew. The creature lay unconscious in the research facility's containment unit, its form constantly shifting even in sleep. Minho worked frantically with his portable scanners, analyzing the alien biostructure, while Captain Jinwoo and his Marines stood guard. "This is incredible," Minho whispered, studying the readings on his datapad. Their entire nervous system is connected to some kind of quantum communication network. Every piece of information one creature learns gets shared instantly with all the others. Daehyun wiped grease from his hands after helping install the containment field generators. His mining suit had been modified with armor plating and additional power cells, making him look like a mechanical warrior. So when one of these things learns that plasma fire doesn't work, they all know it immediately? Exactly. But here's what's interesting. Minho pointed at a section of his scanner display. The connection works both ways. If we can manipulate the information one creature receives, we can affect the entire network. So Young looked up from her communication station, where she had been coordinating with other survivor groups across the planet. Settlement 7 just reported something strange. They'd been playing sounds through their speakers, and the creatures started avoiding certain areas. "What kind of sounds?" Jinwoo asked. "Children laughing." The teacher there, Eunji, figured out that the creatures don't understand human emotion responses very well. They expect screaming and panic, but laughter confuses them. Minho's eyes lit up with understanding. That's it. We can feed them false information through their own learning system. If we can make them believe humans are dangerous when they're happy instead of when they're afraid. Teacher Unji's voice crackled through the emergency network from Settlement 4. We've been running experiments here. When children play games loudly, the creatures stay away. When adults act scared, they attack. We're teaching them the wrong lessons on purpose. The idea spread quickly among the survivor groups. At Settlement 9, colonists began singing work songs while they reinforced their defenses. The Ravagers, expecting fear and desperation, couldn't process this response and became hesitant to attack. Daehyun had made his own breakthrough in the mining complex. These things hate certain mineral frequencies. We discovered it by accident when the excavation lasers hit crystalline deposits. The sound makes them retreat. Can you weaponize that? Jin-Woo asked, already working on it. My crew is setting up resonance amplifiers throughout the settlement. If we can create a network of sonic barriers, we might be able to control where these creatures can go. Minho continued his analysis of the captured Ravager, making notes as quickly as his hands could move. Their adaptation process follows predictable patterns. They encounter a threat, analyze it, develop a countermeasure, then share that information with the network. But what if we interrupt that process? How? By overwhelming them with contradictory data. If we can make them believe multiple conflicting things at once, their adaptation system might crash. So Young intercepted more alien communications from orbit. Her translation software was beginning to understand basic patterns in their language. The aliens up there are getting nervous. Their chatter has increased by 300% in the last 6 hours. Settlement by settlement, humans were learning to fight back in ways the Veltar had never anticipated. Instead of hiding in bunkers, they began actively hunting the creatures using coordinated tactics. At Settlement 12, colonists discovered that the Ravagers' camouflage systems had trouble with rapid color changes. They began using strobe lights and rotating colored filters to disorient the creatures long enough to attack their weak points. Teacher Unji proved surprisingly effective at psychological warfare. Her experience managing classroom behavior translated perfectly to manipulating alien learning algorithms. Think of them as very dangerous children who are trying to learn the wrong lessons, she advised other settlements. We need to be their teachers, but we're going to teach them that everything they think they know about humans is backwards. The breakthrough came when Minho successfully interfaced with the captured Ravager's neural network. Using a combination of bioelectric stimulation and quantum field manipulation, he began feeding false information directly into the creature's consciousness. I'm telling it that humans become stronger when they're injured, he explained to the fascinated group watching his work, and that human technology works better when damaged. Let's see how the network processes completely illogical data. The results were immediate. Across the planet, Ravagers began exhibiting confused behavior. Some would retreat when humans appeared wounded. Others would ignore obviously functional weapons while attacking broken equipment. Jin-Woo coordinated the first successful counterattack against a Veltar ground installation using this new knowledge. If they think damaged equipment is more dangerous, let's give them what they expect. His team approached the alien outpost carrying obviously broken weapons and wearing torn clothing. The Ravagers guarding the installation retreated, allowing the humans to plant explosives without resistance. Daehyun's sonic barrier network came online just as the aliens deployed additional creatures. The new Ravagers found themselves trapped in corridors of sound that hurt their sensitive hearing, unable to adapt because the frequencies constantly shifted. Above the planet, Admiral Kexvan watched his perfect bioweapons begin to malfunction. His science officer reported increasingly erratic behavior from the creatures. Sir, the humans appear to be manipulating our creatures' learning processes, the officer said nervously. Kexvan's 6 eyes narrowed. That's impossible. How could primitives understand quantum neural networks? I don't know, sir, but our bioweapons are starting to attack our own positions. The Admiral realized with growing horror that his test subjects had become teachers, and they were educating his weapons to destroy him. By the 5th day, Admiral Kexvan knew something had gone terribly wrong. He stood before the holographic display in his ship's command center, watching red warning lights flash across the tactical screen. 3 of his most advanced Ravagers were now fighting alongside humans. "Explain this to me again," Kexvan demanded, his 6 eyes fixed on his trembling science officer. "The humans have somehow reprogrammed our bioweapons, sir. They're using the creature's own adaptive systems against them. Our ground installation on the northern continent was just destroyed by our own Ravagers." Below on the planet's surface, Dr. Minho worked feverishly in his makeshift laboratory. The captured Ravager had become his greatest tool, its neural network now completely under his control. Through careful manipulation, he could send false information to the entire creature network. "Jinwoo, bring me the next batch of data," Minho called out. Captain Jinwoo handed him a data pad containing behavioral analysis from all 12 settlements. "Unji's psychological warfare tactics are working perfectly," Jinwoo reported. "The creatures now believe that humans singing battle songs are preparing deadly attacks. Settlement 4 used that to clear an entire district just by organizing a choir." Daehyun's voice came through the communication system from the mining complex. "My sonic barrier network is operational across 6 settlements. These creatures can't get within 50 meters of our defensive positions now." So Young looked up from her station, excitement in her voice. "I've been intercepting their orbital communications. The aliens are panicking up there. They're talking about deploying more creatures, but they're afraid their new ones will get reprogrammed too." Minho smiled grimly as he made final adjustments to the neural interface connected to their captive Ravager. "Let them send more. Every creature they deploy becomes another weapon we can turn against them." The transformation had been remarkable. What started as a desperate fight for survival had become a masterclass in human adaptation. Each settlement had discovered different aspects of the creature's weaknesses, and the communication network So Young maintained allowed every group to benefit from everyone else's discoveries. Teacher Unji had become the unofficial coordinator of psychological operations. Her gentle voice guided settlements through complex manipulation techniques that confused the creature's learning algorithms. "Remember, everyone," her voice came through the speakers, "these creatures expect us to be afraid. When we act confident and happy, it crashes their decision-making process." Settlement 8 just cleared their entire perimeter by having a dance party. Daehyun had turned his mining operation into a weapons factory. His crew used excavation equipment to create sonic weapons that could stun Ravagers long enough for capture teams to secure them. "We got 5 more creatures ready for reprogramming," he reported. "Minho's neural interface process is getting faster each time." The real breakthrough came when Jinwoo's military team successfully attacked their first Veltar ground base. Using a combination of reprogrammed Ravagers, sonic weapons, and psychological warfare, they overran the alien position in less than an hour. The aliens had no idea how to fight their own creatures. Jinwoo explained to the coordinated settlements. When 3 Ravagers suddenly attacked their defensive positions, their entire line collapsed. Inside the captured base, So Young discovered alien communication equipment that allowed her to monitor Veltar military channels directly. "They're scared," she announced with satisfaction. "Really scared. They're calling us impossible adaptive parasites in their reports." Minho found something even more valuable in the alien computers. "They're bioweapon designs," he said, studying the technical specifications. "Now I understand exactly how these creatures work. We can create countermeasures for anything they deploy." The psychological impact on the Veltar was devastating. Admiral Kexvan received report of human attacks on 3 more ground installations. His carefully planned tests had become a nightmare where the subjects were hunting the researchers. "Sir," his tactical officer Mordek said nervously, "perhaps we should consider withdrawing. The bioweapons program appears to be compromised." "Absolutely not." Kexvan's voice echoed through the bridge. "Deploy everything, all remaining bioweapon variants. If the humans want to play with our creations, let's see how they handle our entire arsenal." Below, Teacher Unji was coordinating the most ambitious psychological operation yet. "Everyone needs to participate in this," she explained to all settlements. We're going to convince their entire creature network that humans are most dangerous when they're working together peacefully. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Every human settlement would simultaneously engage in normal, peaceful activities: farming, cooking, teaching children, playing music. The creatures, expecting aggression and violence, would receive data indicating that these peaceful behaviors were actually preparation for devastating attacks. Daehyun sonic barriers would protect everyone while Minho fed contradictory information through their captured creatures. The alien bioweapons would receive signals indicating that human cooperation meant imminent danger. "This is insane," Jinwoo muttered, but he was smiling. "We're going to defeat alien monsters by having a planet-wide picnic." So Young monitored the alien reactions from orbit. "It's working." Their communication chatter just increased by 500%. They have no idea how to respond to this. Above the planet, Admiral Kexvan watched his tactical display with growing horror. Every bioweapon on the surface had stopped attacking and was now retreating from human settlements. His perfect predators were running away from farmers and children. "What are they doing to our creatures?" he whispered. The humans had turned his greatest weapons into their greatest allies. Worse, they were doing it with methods his military mind couldn't understand. They weren't just winning the war. They were rewriting the rules of combat itself. The final confrontation began on the 10th day when Admiral Kexvan made his last desperate decision. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, he watched his tactical display show the complete failure of his bioweapon program. Every creature on the planet's surface had either been destroyed or turned against his own forces. "Deploy everything," he ordered his terrified crew. "Every bioweapon variant we have. Flood that planet with so many creatures, they cannot possibly reprogram them all." Hundreds of deployment pods launched from the Veltar fleet, each containing different types of monsters: acid spitters, shapeshifters, flying hunters, underground burrowers, and dozens of other nightmare creatures fell toward New Tasmania like deadly rain. On the planet's surface, Dr. Minho watched the overwhelming assault through his laboratory's monitors. The sky filled with biopods, more than they had ever seen before. But instead of fear, he felt a strange calm settle over him. "Jinwoo," he called to Captain Kim, who was coordinating defensive positions. "Are all settlements ready?" "Every single one. Daehyun Sonic Network is at maximum power. Eunji has all groups prepared for the final psychological operation. So Young is ready to broadcast our surprise to the aliens." Minho nodded and activated the device he had spent days preparing. In his laboratory sat not just one capture ravager, but 7 different creature types, all connected to his neural interface system. Let's show them what real evolution looks like. The biological virus he had created was unlike anything the Veltar could have imagined. Instead of destroying the creatures, it reprogrammed their most basic instincts. Every creature that landed on New Tasmania would receive new instructions through their shared neural network. Teacher Eunji's voice came through the communication system, calm and confident. "All settlements, begin Phase 1. Show them what human cooperation really means." Across the planet, every human settlement began the same activity simultaneously. They started building, not weapons or defenses, but homes, schools, gardens, and community centers. Children played in the streets while adults worked together on construction projects. The newly arrived creatures landed expecting to find terrified humans hiding in bunkers. Instead, they found organized communities engaged in peaceful activities. The reprogramming virus immediately began affecting their behavior patterns. Daehyun Sonic Network had evolved far beyond simple barriers. Now it created planet-wide communication frequencies that carried specific psychological messages directly into creature consciousness. Every sound tells them that human building activities mean extreme danger, he reported with satisfaction. So-young had intercepted and decoded the alien deployment commands. Using this information, she broadcast false retreat orders on Veltar military frequencies. Their own commanders are now telling the creatures to avoid human settlements, she announced. But the real masterstroke came from Minho's biological virus. As it spread to the creature network, it didn't just change their programming. It made them protective of humans instead of hostile. Jean Wu led the assault team that would end the war, using a combination of reprogrammed creatures as allies, captured alien technology, and pure human determination. They launched toward the Veltar mothership in stolen alien transport craft. Remember, Jean Wu told his team as they approached a massive enemy vessel, "These aliens have never seen humans fight when we're truly angry. They've only observed us during peacetime. Today they learn what we become when someone threatens our families." The battle for the mothership was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans fought alongside creatures that had been designed to kill them. Ravagers that had learned to see humans as allies protected Jean Wu's team, while they fought through the ship's corridors. Admiral Kexvan watched in horror as his own bridge security systems turned against his crew. The biolocks had been infected by Minho's virus and now recognized humans as friendly while treating Veltar as threats. "This is impossible," Kexvan whispered as Jean Wu and his team entered the bridge. "You were supposed to be simple prey. How did you turn our perfect weapons against us?" Jean Wu leveled his weapon at the alien commander. "Your mistake was thinking we were prey at all. Humans don't just survive. We adapt, we learn, and when someone threatens our world, we become something you never expected." "Were you?" Kexvan asked, genuine fear in his voice. "We're teachers," Jean Wu replied, "and your creatures learned the wrong lesson. They thought they were the monsters. But the real monsters are what humans become when we're pushed too far." Below on the planet, the transformation was complete. Hundreds of bioweapons that had been designed to exterminate humans now worked to protect them. They helped rebuild damaged settlements and guarded children playing in gardens. Teacher Unji watched the former predators learning to tend crops alongside human farmers. "Amazing how quickly they adapted to their new purpose," she commented to Minho. "The same neural flexibility that made them perfect killers made them perfect protectors." Minho replied, "We just had to teach them what was worth protecting." So Young broadcast a final message from New Tasmania to the entire galaxy. It went out on every frequency, in every known language, carrying a simple warning that would be remembered for generations. This is New Tasmania. To any species considering attacking human worlds, we don't just fight back. We turn your weapons into our allies. Your monsters become our friends. Your perfect predators learn to love our children. Attack us, and discover what humans become when we stop being civilized. The Veltar Empire's final transmission was brief and desperate. Warning to all Veltar forces. Avoid human territories at all costs. Classification. Extreme adaptive threat. They don't just survive our attacks. They make our attacks serve them. New Tasmania had won, but they had done more than just survive. They had announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage in a way that would never be forgotten. The monsters had been unleashed, and everything had gone wrong for those who sent them.